Good morning, TNT, and welcome back to PSA TV. This is Ion Labor segment. I'm Avalon Williams. We have with us on the phone, he is an officer from the tutor in Tobago, Mr. Orlando Kerr. Good morning.
Hi, good morning and good morning to the viewers.
Yep. How are you today, sir?
Well, I'm okay. I'm okay.
I know there's a lot happening at the Mason Hall Secondary School. If you can just tell us what's happening there, because I've been seeing you trending a lot all over the news.
Basically, the teachers at the school are very unhappy at this time, and they're unhappy because, there have been many issues at the school that have been long-standing, and they were given the assurance by the Division of Education that those issues were going to be dealt with over the July-August vacation period. They returned to work on Monday, realizing that nothing was done. And it was a really huge disappointment because the labs, which is one of the main bone of contention, where the students are required to do their practicals and so on to submit their SBs, still are not functioning after 2 years. So the teachers are very unhappy. There are other issues, and there are other schools that are also affected in terms of their labs, Bayside and Goodwood. And I think Bishop's High School labs are down at this time as well. However, their labs have not been done for as long as the other schools. And we have a serious issue with furniture at this time in Tobago. Even the Mason Hall Secondary School, they are short in terms of quite a few hundred chairs and so on. The students, Signal Secondary School, an entire year group was not at school yesterday. I haven't gotten an update as yet for today, but the whole fourth form year group was asked not to come to school because there wasn't any furniture for them. Primary schools as well have been experiencing the same challenges. So that we are very concerned that the Secretary of Education would be on record as saying that things are good, things are okay, everything is fine. And, we really have a serious concern about that because in order to address these issues, you must admit that there are issues and then we can work from there. But if you are saying that everything is fine and every time you speak in the media, you give the impression that teachers are just trying to give trouble and that, everything is good at the schools and there's no need for teachers to show their displeasure or anything like that, then you're trying to put the teachers in a funny position.
Mr. Kerr, did the Education Minister, Mr. Anthony Garcia, visited Tobago because he made an announcement before school was opened that a lot of schools were ready except for a few, but Mason Hall was not on that list though.
Well, the thing about it is that the Minister of Education does not have control of education in Tobago. It falls under the purview of the Secretary of Education in Tobago. So I guess he would not have commented on what is happening in Tobago.
Okay.
But I might add that the same thing is happening in Trinidad because I am privy to meetings. I attend meetings in Trinidad. We had an IRC meeting on Monday. And while the minister might be saying that everything is okay with the exception of a few minor issues, that is far from the truth. If you look at what is happening, if you go around the country and so on, many of the schools that have actually been open and are functioning, it is because teachers really are trying to make do with the present situation. But many of the situations at our nation schools have not been addressed. But teachers generally will try their best to continue to work, as I said, even under less than ideal circumstances. Right? There are some schools that have not been able to open. I don't know if they have been open as yet. So that to say that all is well, I have serious concerns about that. The association has serious concerns about that because, while we don't expect you to paint a picture of doom and gloom, we expect that as a public officer who is expected to report to the nation, that you be as accurate as possible when you're reporting to the nation and you do not paint a picture that is not, a true reflection of what is actually happening on the ground.
So, Mr. Kerr, where does this leave the students who, they can't go to school now? What is the next step there? Are you going to contact the relevant authorities again?
Well, we have always remained around the table. We don't ever walk away from having discussions. We don't ever walk away from working together with the division or with the Ministry of Education.
Right.
So that as one of the main stakeholders, we are always willing to have discussion. When we do have discussions, we always try to provide a solution to the problem. We do not just simply say, well, this is the problem. We are there to to assist and help in whatever way we can. But at the end of the day, there's only so much that we can do because we can only make recommendations. Whether or not these recommendations are put in place or whatever is up to the Ministry or the Division of Education.
Right. And
as you may appreciate, the vocational repair program happens every year. And every single year, you are going to, after the program has been completed and school reopens, we always have these challenges. And it therefore means that we are not doing something right. But we continue to do the same thing the same way. And, so that nothing is going to change unless we change what we do. And that is part of the challenge with the Division of Education and the Ministry, to change the culture of what is happening. And try to lift the standard of what, should happen during the vacation repair program.
Mr. Kerr, before I made contact with you, I've spoken to some of the parents as well, and it seems as though their calls have gone unanswered. They feel forgotten by this government. What is your take on that, though? Do you feel the same way as Tobagonians right now?
Well, the thing about it, and I said it yesterday at the interview, I find that the PT, should play a more active role in what is happening now. Because the reality is, most of what is happening in relation to what the teachers were protesting about yesterday affects the students more than the teachers. And the PTA, to me, should add its voice in calling on the division and the ministry to rectify these things. Right now, there are a handful of parents who agitate and so on. But we have our national bodies represented, and that, you're not hearing anything from the PTA when school is affected. You're not hearing anything from the PTA when children go to school and there is no furniture. You're not hearing anything from the PTA when, as was identified with Mason Hall, children are not able to do their SBAs and so on. These are things that should concern the nation, not just tutor. These should concern the nation because it affects our children, and therefore, by extension, it's going to affect what's happening in our nation and the development of our human resource. So that we should add our voices, all of us, not only because we are teachers, but also parents and other persons in society should really bring pressure to bear on the officials at the division and the ministry to really be, forthright and honest and really address these issues in a meaningful way.
Well, Mr. Kerr, I want to thank you for taking this call with us this morning, and I do hope that you get a speedy recovery of what's happening at the secondary school there at Mason Hall. Is there anything you'd like to say before you end this interview?
Well, I want to echo your sentiments, because we're really hoping that, these issues will be resolved. Because as I said earlier, it's not the Mason Hall Secondary School only. Many of the other secondary schools are affected, maybe not as severely, right? And many of our primary schools as well are affected. Lack of furniture, photocopying machines, and basic equipment for teachers to function effectively, during their day-to-day activity. And, we are really hoping that, it would be a wake-up call to the relevant authorities to really deal with the matter. But one of the things that we can assure is that we are not going to relent in our pursuit of this, because we know that what we are pursuing is to the benefit of the children and the education system. So we are going to continue to agitate until these matters are treated.
Thank you so much, Mr. Orlando Kerr.
You're most welcome, and do have a pleasant day.
You too, bye-bye.
Okay.
So that was a telephone call there. We were joined by the tutor officer in Tobago, Mr. Orlando Kerr. They have some sort of issues going on with the reopening of the school term for Mason Hall Secondary School children. And we have come to the end of today's program. As I would just want to thank all our viewers and listeners here at the PSA TV, and also the Progressive Empowerment Party followers as well. I want to thank Mr. Philip Alexander for joining us here at the PSA TV. And just to end, I also want to thank Mr. Boxo Potts and my sister for sending birthday greetings for me today, as today's my birthday. Thank you. And before we end this segment this morning, we're going to be launching a new campaign which is called PSA Kerr, so you can stay tuned for that interview with NATUC General Secretary Mr. Michael Anisette, and also a former president of the Public Services Association, Mr. Clyde Weatherhead. So you can stay tuned and catch that interview, and we're going to see you guys tomorrow.